Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. Welcome back to the Winning Live. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by one of my favorite folks, one of my good friends, and also the newest member of the On Texas Football family, my man Jeff Howe, and of course the coach, former high school football coach at Vernon, Capel, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan. Also played college football at Abilene Christian, coached there as well, and was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head football coaches. Just work at Shipley. .com. It's our own coach Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
I'm doing great, enjoying this beautiful Texas spring weather.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it keeps on changing, but hey, man, I'm much early spring. I like the way that early spring. Start thinking good thoughts. Wants to come a little bit early. All right, so we'll be talking a lot about the combine, of course. That's what's happening right now. I'm just looking at actually, Alfred Collins doing one of the wave drills. So we'll talk about the Longhorns who are represented at the NFL Combine. Several have already hit with media availabilities. Yesterday, we talked about Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins speaking to the media. They're now doing on-field drills. Barron Terrell as well, and also the DBs got a chance to speak to the media. Andrew Mukuba and Jahdae Barron today. So we'll talk about a little bit and talk about the combine for all the Longhorns. My man Jeff Howe got a chance to watch or rewatch the town hall meeting that CDC had. What's up, CD? Yesterday. So we'll get into the town hall meeting and some of the news, notes, and nuggets from his town hall address. And of course, anything you guys want to talk about, throw it out there. Questions, comments, we'll address as we can. Super chats jump to the front of the line, and you can interrupt the show at any time. Of course, a lot of combine conversation today with the Longhorns, with 14 players being represented at the NFL Combine. And this is actually, Coach, when some of the freakiest displays of athleticism are taking place. When you get to see the D linemen moving around, you're talking about 300-pound humans changing direction and moving real fast, 40s under. You can be damn near 300 pounds and running 40 under 5 something. I mean, that's impressive to me. So that's just some of the real freak show stuff we have happening at the combine right now, Coach.
Yeah, it really is. It's freakish. I can't remember who the defensive lineman, or no, it was offensive lineman was a few years ago that ran like, who was that guy? Ran like a 4.8 or 4.
Oh, I believe, yeah. I think I remember this.
It was, but yeah, it's freakish. The thing these guys are doing, especially, now that they've had a little break from a little time to recover from the season, some specialized training, and don't think these guys for the last couple of months hadn't been training, doing these drills, specialized drills every single day, because that's the cheat code. I mean, it's not like these guys walk in there and say, okay, we want you to go 5 yards this way and then go 10 yards and come back and then go 5 yards and go back. And they go, okay. No, they've been working on it. In fact, every does it in their off season, so they've got it down to a craft, and it's truly a thing of beauty to watch these highly fine-tuned athletes, especially these big guys, do things that just will blow your mind.
Jeff, I always said this is the freakiest part of the combine to me. I know everybody wants to see the DBs like me and the wide receivers run 40-yard dashes and 4.3s and potentially 4.2s, but man, when you see big men, human, as Sark likes to call them, and those start showcasing some freakish change of direction and agility for a guy that's damn near 300 pounds or over 300 pounds, that to me is that's where the Philadelphia Eagles won their Super Bowl, right? Getting freaky guys like that at this stage, identifying them at this stage of the combine.
Yeah, I always like to say, man, I don't really look at the 40 for offensive linemen, because if you're an offensive lineman, you're ever running 40 yards, either something really good is happening or something really bad is happening. But I just looked at the fastest 40 times ever for offensive linemen at the combine. Teron Armstead, Lane Johnson, Trent Williams. That's 3 all-pros that have the fastest 40 times ever for offensive linemen at the combine.
What is that time, by the way? Just about what do you remember about what it was?
Teron Armstead, Coach, he ran 4.71 at 306 pounds.
Wow. Damn. That is crazy, man. That is crazy. I don't think people realize how freaky that is. There's no way people. You got to be able to see that. I got to go see that. They have that on YouTube or something. I got to see that. I got to see that for my own eyes. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, Lane Johnson was 4.72, and then Trent Williams at 315 pounds ran a 4.81.
315 pounds. That one's got to be on YouTube. I'm gonna go watch those. Actually, see, I'm about to go back and check those out. That is great stuff there, Jeff. Yeah, that to me. So and then, by the way, they're saying, guys, that this is the deepest D-line draft in years. I saw the tweet from, I think it was Todd McShay actually, that had it out there. Yeah, he said this D tackle draft, basically, he said the last D-line draft that had as many D tackles with draftable grades. I think he claims was like maybe 1992, something like that. That was the last time they had this many D tackles in with draftable grades for him. So it's a really, and this is unfortunate for Vernon Broughton and also for Alfred Collins, because those two guys, I think in any other year, Jeff, those guys will be drafted a lot higher. The D tackle draft is specifically, like I said, Todd McShay says, deepest interior D line since 31 were drafted in 1992. So you're going to find pretty much a quality, maybe starter caliber defensive lineman in this draft, guys, in maybe the third round. Like, that's crazy to think, but that is like, you could potentially find yourself a starter quality interior D lineman in the third round. That's how deep it is. Now, there may be like 10, maybe there are like 10 drafted in the first 2 rounds, so maybe that doesn't happen. But if the draft kind of holds to its normal tendencies and premium positions and teams, prioritizing prioritizing needs over wants, then I'm telling you, you're going to get you some really good talent in the middle of this draft in the interior D line. And that could be Vernon Broughton, could be an Alfred Collins.
Yeah. I just looked at that 1992 draft, by the way. No Hall of Famers. There's no Hall of Famers in that 92 draft class, which is kind of weird just for
that is crazy.
Class for Hall of Famers. But there were some just really good players, like Pro Bowl caliber players at defensive tackle. Sean Gilbert, Chester McLaughlin, Joel Steed out of Colorado, played for the Steelers, was in that draft. So yeah, it's a really deep, really good draft for defensive tackles. And like you said, Rod, I think it just speaks to the depth of the draft when maybe there's just a handful of like upper tier, that at any year they'd be like top 10 type guys. But once you get like into, the 15th pick, this is a really good year. If your team want to trade back and maybe you trade out of the first round, pick up an extra 2 or an extra 4 or whatever, because you can still get at some positions, defensive tackle is one of them. You can get starting caliber players. Probably you can get into day 3 and there still could be guys that are going to start for you left on the board.
Could be. Yeah, could easily be the case. For the Longhorns, Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins are not going to test. And I don't even think Vernon Broughton's going to do drills either. Yeah. He's skipping both. But Alfred Collins is actually going to do drills, but he's not going to test. And that means do the 40-yard dash and the vertical and all that kind of stuff. He's going to do that at pro day. So neither one of those guys are testing, but Alfred Collins is doing some of the drills. Alfred Collins has gotten a chance, coach, to really improve his draft stock a ton once he does test, actually. But even in these drills, seeing somebody with his size, with his dimensions, being able to change direction and move around, he's got a chance to really impress some folks too. And he's already, we talked about it yesterday, met with a few teams. Right now, he is seen as a guy that's an early down player that can help you on rundowns. But Alfred Collins has got all the raw materials. I think his arm length was 34 5/8 for a D tackle. By the way, Vernon Broughton tied for the longest arm length of D tackles at the combine, which, it's always good to be at the top of some of those freak list, coach. But I believe that Alfred Collins is right there at the top 8 as well, like around the top 8 as well in terms of arm length. What are your thoughts about, Alfred Collins and how he can improve his stock right now? Some people got him as a second round guy. Some people got him as a guy that could drop into the third round potentially. Coach, what are your thoughts about just Vernon Broughton and his kind of the freaky athletic profile and measurables that obviously want to impress all the scouts? Yeah.
Well, I think one of the most impressive things about Vernon, and I'm sorry, I'm a coach, I love these kind of guys, but one of the things that a chink in his armor in terms of his character, neither one of those guys, Alfred or Vernon, and so this as well as I do. Both of you guys do. Rod, you've been through it. it's said that, you know, they're looking for reasons not to draft you. A lot of
Yep.
teams go in there with a negative almost view, and scouts almost, you know, and I you know, we've heard all the questions about, I mean, all the personal interviews and how they try to put guys. Did that happen to you, Rod? When you talk to teams, did any of them try to put you in an uncomfortable position to see how you would respond to that? Like,
Oh yeah,
hey, Rod,
yeah.
we heard this about you, we heard that, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
and kind of see how you respond. I mean, you got any stories along with that? Because I don't think there's anything in these two guys that they're going to be able to find that's going to say, hey, this guy's a liability off the field. We better not draft him.
Yeah, they didn't really have much like dirt on me in terms of off the field stuff, but I just say players at Texas had certain reputations coming out. They would bring up, you know, stuff like that, just kind of players, you know, coming from the University of Texas, and certain reputations that Texas players may have had coming out. Any individual dirt on me, that's something that you are prepared for, though, when we talked about the preparation of training for the combine. Everything is very specific to different drills and testing. Same thing with the interview process, though. I mean, they got guys now. It's a cottage industry, right? They have people that will prepare you for the interviews. And if you have something, let's say your background, that's problematic, they will prepare you to talk about it and communicate it. Like if there's something that was controversial background, you're going to have to talk about it at the combine, and you're going to talk about it multiple times. The media is going to ask you about it, and every coach is going to ask you about it. And when they ask you, assume it's rhetorical. Assume they already got their story. Assume they already talked to the police and their own witnesses, because they have done their due diligence. They really, really like you. They already sent somebody out there to do due diligence and find out their version of that story. All right. So it is. I had guys who had, you know, some things in their background that they had to be addressed, and they had to confront at combine. And but I never really had to deal with that. But it right character. I mean, that's a big part of the people don't think so. And now if you're a freakish talent, if you're a freakish, you know, world-class talent, yeah, they will some of your character concerns, of course, right? This talent works. But if you're just what 80% of the guys at the combine are, all right, who are just guys who are hoping to get league and make, and yes, you do have a certain level of athleticism that will allow you to perform at that level, but you're not Randy Moss freaky, Bijan Robinson freaky. You ain't that kind of freaky. It's a different level of freaky. Then your character can really drop your draft stock tremendously. Like if there are lots of character concerns, and you've had an issue, they'll overlook it for maturity if you've shown a track record of learning from mistakes, things of that nature. But if it's over and over again and you got some major issues, we've seen it from guys at Texas. I'm not going to name who exactly it is, but that can truly be an issue. That can be an issue.
Yeah, I can tell you that my experience at Burnett, at Coppell, at Brownwood, at Belton, all four of those places, I had scouts calling me, asking me about guys that are eligible for the draft that went to that school, and they want to know about any skeletons in their closet from high school. That's crazy. Don't think they don't do the homework right. Like you said, that they will find out. They will know. But that's really not fair, in my opinion, because a lot of us did stuff when we were 16, 17, 18 years old that we wouldn't want many people knowing about, probably, you know, especially NFL scouts.
Mm-hmm.
But they do. They go all the way back into high school, and they check with people in high school to check on your character, your work ethic, you know, maybe run in with the police or whatever. It's just, it's really, I don't think that's very fair, but you know, I think you judge a man by how he is now and what he's done the last couple of years, not what he did when he was an immature teenager running around with his buddies, you know, his partners, and, you know, doing pranks or whatever.
That's true. They do it, though, when you go for a job interview now, right, Coach? They check your social media and make sure that you hadn't said anything crazy.
Doubt. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's part of it, too. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think you should kind of give guys a chance to mature into, you know, their new really their new role in life, if you will, becoming a student athlete and then becoming a professional. There's no doubt, man, they do their due diligence. You're right about that, Coach, as you know firsthand. All right, also firsthand, let's thank our partners over at Flat Creek Estate Winery before we move on, and thank them for all of their support of On Texas football and the winning drive. Folks, let me let you know right now that our friends over at Flat Creek State Winery, they're just minutes from downtown Austin. That's right. And they've won award after award for their vintage wine, Super Texan. That's right. Flat Creek State Winery, just minutes from now. And folks, don't worry about this. They're also a gorgeous venue. So you can go there not only to enjoy some of the best wines that you've ever tasted, but also to enjoy whatever occasion, whether it's an anniversary or maybe it's a special birthday or whatever special event that you are celebrating. You can do it at Flat Creek Estate Winery. They have barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend, perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. And also, my friends are at flatcreekestate.com. It's available at your local Specs. They also have it at your local Central Market here in Austin, Texas as well. So I'm glad the good word is getting out about Flat Creek Estate Winery. That's flatcreekestate.com. And we appreciate them for supporting On Texas football and being a supporter of the winning drive. All right, let's hit a question here before we move on. We'll get back to the combine conversation. Brandon here wants to know, Rod B, Jeff, and Coach, do you have a comp for Jahdae Barron? A comp for Jahdae Barron. That is good. It's interesting because I don't know how Freakish Jahdae Barron is going to look when they start testing. And matter of fact, I pulled up a Todd. How about this guy? I'm gonna read just Todd McShay's write-up he had recently. And this was yesterday. So he was listening to, or at least I think earlier today. So listening to Jahdae Barron at the media availabilities. And this is what he said about Jahdae Barron. Todd McShay, he's one of the lead draft analysts for ESPN. He says, I'm planting my flag right now. Jahdae Barron is the best pure defensive back in this class. I got him ranked number 2 behind Travis Hunter, but you can't tell me there are 10 better football players in this class than Barron. There are nickel defenders that I fall in love with every year or so, and Barron is the latest. He said another player was Brian Branch a couple of years ago. I remember Nick Saban calling me, chastising me, saying how much I loved Branch because Nick Saban thought he needed another year in college. He said one thing that jumps out about Barron's tape is how well he plays off the field, lined up at corner, played nickel, and at deep free safety, even at linebacker depth in the field. Said he also plays more man coverage than he gets credit for. And he said he doesn't have 4.4 speed, and if he gets behind if he gets behind a receiver on a crossing route or because of a rub mesh, he's not going to catch up. But he has such good instincts that he can protect himself against that 95% of the time. He also said, I'd be shocked if he ran a 4.4 at the combine. And he said, I'd be shocked if he ran a 4.4. And so it tells me that maybe scouts, the tape, they're willing to overlook any shortcomings. At least some of them are maybe willing to overlook any shortcomings of Jahdae Barron in terms of his 40 time. But if he runs a fast 40 time, and fast is low 4.4, mid to low 4.4, that is fast. Freakishly fast is 4.3s, and world-class speed is 4.2, all right? And he's still 4.4 is plenty fast enough for him to go to the NFL and be able to cover NFL caliber receivers, especially with his football intellect and his acumen. But that is interesting, guys. They don't. Tom McShay said, I don't expect him to even run a 4.4. He said, I expect him to run a 4.5, which is what Brian Branch ran, by the way. Mm-hmm. Brian Branch was in the 4.5s, and he's one of the best DBs in the NFL for the Detroit Lions. So you can run a 4.5 if your football speed translates.
Yeah. Brian Branch was, I went and looked at it, Rob. Brian Branch was 4.58.
He was slow.
So Jahdae, I guarantee he's going to run faster than 4.58. But that makes me feel good. It's like some NFL franchises know what they're doing. It's like, look, as long as he doesn't go run like a 4.6 or something like that, just something that we is just going to, cause everybody's jaw to hit the floor in a bad way. Jahdae's going to go in the first round. He's just too good of a football player to pass up. And I think there are too many teams drafting in the 20s. I've said it before, I'll say it again, that are just smart organizations that year in, year out. The reason why they're in the playoffs competing for the Super Bowl, you look at their drafts, they just take really good ball players from big schools, SEC, Big Ten, power conference programs that produce on the field, and they continuously win with those guys. And Jahdae's one of those guys, and I have no doubt he's going to be a first round guy.
Do you, Coach? You got a comp for Jahdae Barron? Because I gotta admit, it ain't easy.
No, I can't. Nothing comes to me right now on Jahdae. I just know he's a ball player, man. It's no lie, you know.
Yeah.
Not just today. You're gonna regret it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm trying because he's so versatile. So that's the number one thing. If you're going to compare him to somebody, you got to look at the versatility. He can play any position in the secondary. He played nickel, played corner, and there are times situationally he'd end up at safety. But I remember a piece by Chip Brown a few years ago at Garrett Patterson saying, I think he can play safety. Like, I think he's the kind of guy that can play safety in the Big 12. And so I do wonder. He gives you so much of a margin for error. It's your same take on Travis Hunter, Jeff. How is why Jahdae Barron is a safe pick too. Damn good football player, but you got like 3 chances to strike out. You put him at corner, he ain't fast enough to play corner league. That's all good. You know what? Maybe in the right system, we can move him to nickel, and you don't have to have this flat out speed to win one-on-ones consistently. And you know what? If you play either of those because he doesn't have the foot speed, let's put him at safety. And I think he actually maybe ended up being a pretty good safety because of how he diagnoses plays. Much like Quandre Diggs, strangely enough.
That's what I was thinking.
Very much like Quandre, yes, in his versatility, guys.
Yeah.
Quandre played corner, safety, and nickel in the league.
Yeah.
All 3.
And he's been a Pro Bowl guy at safety. The difference is I don't think I'm over exaggerating this. I think Jahdae is going to show you, hey, this is probably where Quandre would have gotten drafted if Quandre had top level measurables.
Yeah, wingspan.
Quandre couldn't do nothing about his height, couldn't do nothing about his arms. Rod, you said it all the time. Quandre finally grew into his head. Like those are Rod's words, Quandre, not mine.
It's true.
He wasn't going to win a beauty contest in the underwear Olympics at the combine. That's just wasn't it. But man, put him anywhere in the secondary. His high school coach, Finis Van over at Angleton, gave me the best quote about Quandre, and this to me defines Quandre Diggs. He said, if he was big enough, I'd put him at defensive tackle or offensive tackle because his football IQ is so good and he's so competitive. I could put him anywhere on the field, and I have no doubt he'd be the best player at that position. He said, any sport. It doesn't matter, basketball, baseball, soccer, whatever. Put him out there with the track team. He's so competitive, and he's a good enough athlete that he'll figure it out and probably be pretty good at it. I think that sums up Quandre, and I think in a lot of ways that sums up Jahdae. Because remember, Jahdae, there's the special thing about Jahdae from a football character standpoint. He could have gone somewhere else to finish his high school football career, where he might have had a deeper playoff run or gotten on the radar more. Pflugerville Connolly was not a good program when he was there. They weren't winning very many games, but he was dedicated to that program. He stuck it out. And to me, I don't know, Coach, in his day and age where you've got kids, the high school football transfer portal at this point in time in the year of our Lord 2025 is real. To me, there's still something special about a kid that says, nope, these are my friends. This is my program that I'm in. I'm going to stay here and make the best of it. To me, that speaks to a guy's football character.
There's no doubt. I can't say anything else. You hit the nail on the head. I agree with that 100%. No doubt. It says a lot about a man.
Let me ask you this, guys, since we're talking about Jahdae, because Jahdae had a great quote. I want to ask you about it first, Coach. His quote today, because I wrote it down because it stood out to me, and it was kind of mind-blowing how mature he is as a player already. He said, in order for me to grow as a player, I had to learn to be committed to the process without being emotionally attached to the result.
Wow.
I agree. I did this exactly. The same thing to me. Coach. He did it. I did it. Sounds like what the? That is brilliant. By the way, I'm gonna use that when I raise my daughter. Like, that's brilliant. What are your thoughts, Coach, about him? He's saying that was kind of for him. That was a transformative epiphany. To be committed to the process without being emotionally attached to the result. So he said he was going through adversity and he was tying the result of that adversity Oh, thank you very much, Matthew. That's why Matthew's the best in the business. He was
Yeah.
tying the result of that adversity, all right, to his process and thinking like, oh man, maybe questioning his own commitment. He's like, no, the result is a result, but my commitment to the process that's separate. And
yeah, he understands that there's levels, and you have to break through those levels and keep going to reach your, what I always call your genetic potential. You know, are you as good as you can possibly be genetically? And that's a guy who believed in the process. He believed in the development stage, and he believed in himself. And if he stayed with the plan, and that speaks volume just about what we were talking about him at Conley High School. You know, I'm not taking the easy way. I'm not going to fast track, you know, and transfer to a school where they're putting out, you know, 4, 5, 6 D1 guys a year. I'm going to work through this the right way and earn everything I get. And he did that, man. I have not seen that quote, but that blows me away.
You're muted, Rod.
Sorry, it's one of my favorite quotes from a Texas football player, I think, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a really mature way to look at things.
No, I think a couple things there. One, I think you look at Jahdae coming back for one more year. I think that's not just improved his play on the field, but I think that helps guys look at it for more. You become more mature, just spend another year in college, spend another year, you know, growing. So I think that can be attributed to it, just him spending another year in college. The other thing is, I've heard Nick Saban talk about this a lot. When he talked about the de-recruitment process, that was one thing that he said guys really start to turn a corner as players, essentially, when they can be dedicated to the process. They become process-oriented as opposed to result-oriented. And Nick Saban said the best players, you can go down the list, Derrick Henry, Julio Jones, Rolando McClain, whoever, those are the guys that become process-oriented and not result-oriented. So for Jahdae to say that on his own, though, unprompted, that's – man, if I'm an NFL GM, if I'm thinking about him, there's no question I want him in my locker room.
Yeah.
And let me add this. It's just another example of the way that Texas culture is growing. You know, brought on by the 2 running backs we always talk about, you know, that help bring that culture at least to that room, and it spread through the team. And then you have guys like this. What a great time to be a Longhorn. What a great time to be in that locker room and learn from guys like Jahdae and the other guys that have gone through, that seem to have that same philosophy with their development. It's just a great locker room, man. I'm just so pumped for the guys to get to be in that environment around guys like that who understand what being a mature college football player really is. It ain't about fun and games. It ain't about chasing women. It ain't about, you know, reading all the social media stuff about you, staying focused and working towards, you know, your goal and being patient. And, you know, for this guy to come back another year and do what he did, man, he'll be forever considered a hero at the University of Texas in my mind.
You know, Coach, during your time on Tom Herman's staff, when a lot of these guys were recruited, I'll tip my cap to you guys, because one thing that I heard Tom Herman say when guys signed and when guys got to campus, a lot of these guys, you know, you with the limited resources you have in college football, you really try to recruit character. And all these guys we've talked about, you know, you've been able to say, hey, great kid, great family, focused on academics, not going to be a problem off the field, great guy in the locker room. That's just, I think that shows you the caliber of kid that Texas has in the program right now. Nobody's going to bat 1,000, right? But in terms of character and football character, that batting average on the 40 is pretty dang high at this point.
And what you don't hear anymore is what you were referring to earlier, Rod, and that is that entitlement. You know, that the Texas players always seemed like they were entitled, that they were soft, that things were so easy for them, you know, there. And so what's it going to be like in the real world when you're not babied all the time in this, you know, with the best of everything? kind of reminds me of when Rocky goes to Russia and trains, you know. It's like, forget all that, man. I'm gonna be committed to the process without being emotionally attached to the result. That's something like a Rocky would say.
No, it is. Like I said, it's one of my favorite quotes. I wrote it down. And I think you guys are right. I mean, Sark has said the culture is winning games for them. He has said that. And I think this is another kind of example of the mindset of the players who are helping establish that culture. And more importantly, they're passing down that culture. And I think that's what, and I talked about this with Quandre once. And I really asked him, I said, what happened? Like, what happened? Because I remember how much pride we had of passing down the culture of winning and the standard of winning at Texas. And I remember the guys I was passing it down to, and there was no doubt that they were going to not only, play to the standard, but surpass any standard that we set. Like, that's how good they were. And the guys that I passed it down to were Michael Huff and Nathan Vasher and Cedric Griffin. Like, that was like, I'm passing down to my guys. And I remember when it was passed to me from guys like Quentin Jammer and Ahmad Brooks. And I thought to myself, all right, you know what? When it's my DB room, we'll live up and play to the standard. And somewhere, and every room was doing this, by the way, it wasn't just the DBs doing it at DBU. We were just one of the best in the country, but everybody was establishing that kind of culture. And there was a pride in, I'm going to pass that culture down to the young guys so they know how to practice. They know how the work ethic, the commitment to the stand, like you said, Coach, the distractions to put all that out of your mind and focus on the task at hand. Everybody, rowing in the same direction, eyes on the prize. And somewhere along the lines, it got lost. It got lost. Either the guys that were passing it down didn't take as much pride passing it down, or the guys who were supposed to be, obviously living up and playing up to that standard, either they didn't do their part. I'm not sure what. And Quandre agreed. He's like, yeah, somewhere along the line. He said, because he was here. Think about it. He was here in that same locker room with me and his brother, Quentin Jammer, right? Mm-hmm. And with Nathan Vasher. So he saw the culture, like the beginning of the inception of it, of what we were establishing, and then was a big part of it later on. And then to me admitted, like, yeah, something got lost. There was something lost in the connection got lost somehow. And
I think some coaches started recruiting stars instead of recruiting players with character and work ethic. They were going after stars. We had guys, we weren't very good, but we had guys at 247.com recruiter of the year, and they were recruiting stars. They were going for stars. Hey, all my guys averaged 4.2 stars or 3.8 or whatever, and instead of all coming together as staff and saying, listen, that stuff don't matter. We got to have what we got to have. These are our standards. These are the guys we got to have. I remember one of the things that I liked about Tom Herman when he was talking about recruiting, and say what you want about Tom, but he would say, the first question I'm going to ask you when you bring a guy into me is, can this guy help us win a national championship? Can he help us win a national? If he can't help us win a national championship, then don't bring him to me. Yeah. But somewhere in there, again, like I said, we lost that. And I think guys were recruiting stars instead of looking at the overall, go get guys in high school that you think have the athletic ability to play at this level, but are also leaders in that locker room and hold other players accountable and are the hardest workers on your team, instead of going out and getting the guys with the stars and all the headlines that aren't really committed to the process.
I think the other part of that, Coach, is, Rod's talked about it with the defensive back room. Rod, you've talked about it with the brotherhood. And I could tell there was one pro day you were out there. I forget which pro day it was, but you were there, Earl Thomas, Huff. And you can tell, like, it's a brotherhood, like all the way the lineage, everybody has a vested interest in what's going on. Somewhere along the lines that got broken, Coach, I think you brought the word up. I think it was that entitlement, but the entitlement was, I play at Texas. Well, yeah, but, you didn't make that throw. Colt McCoy made that throw. Jordan Shipley made that catch. Lamar Houston made that tackle. Earl Thomas made that interception. You didn't do that. You don't get credit for that. You got to make your own way. I think there was too many of those guys that were kind of living off the credit of other guys' accomplishments and just expected, hey, we're just going to roll the ball out and beat people just because we're Texas and we got, those 5 letters across the front of our chest. Well, no, that's not how it was done. Even when it looked like that's what was happening, that's not how it was done.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, there's times when I've looked, we didn't have any, what do you call it, Rod? Dogs.
Dogs.
You know, we had pretty boys. We had guys that test good, but we didn't have and a dog is right here. Right here. They bring it every day because they got a lot of dog in them. At University of Houston, they had a lot of dog. Those guys, they were dogs. They were hungry. They were hungry. But for some reason, when they came to Austin, it just didn't happen. We just didn't get that many just flat out dogs. It was more selfish. Me, what about me?
Yep. To that point, though, Coach, it's strange enough bringing it back to Quandre. McQuandre almost didn't get an offer from Texas. And that guy had more dog in him than damn near anybody in that class. And he almost didn't get an offer because, like you said, didn't have enough of the stars. So that's a great point. I agree about that. But it's now they have it, though, is my point. Sorry, I didn't mean to get into the doom and gloom there, guys. But my point is now that there's a pride in passing those lessons down and making sure guys play and work and are committed to that standard. And it's, like I said, Coach, you're right, man. It's a great time to be a Texas football fan. It really is. Even though we'll still complain about it a little bit, crying from a yacht. Until we win it all, Longhorn fans will still complain about it. All right, let's get to Jose's got a question. He said, Coach, did players you coach become better due to success or because of the culture and buy-in?
I think probably a little bit of both, but the best ones, as we've said many times, Rod, they will bring the level of play up of everybody around. Those are the guys that I love to coach. Those are the guys that I love to recruit, that I love to be around. They raise the level of expectation of everybody around them. And that's culture and that's buy-in, and that's what creates success. If you have success, but you lose a culture and buy-in, which is exactly what we've been describing, that's the result of it. If you don't have the culture and buy-in, then you're not going to have the success. But that's my 2 cents. But I love those guys that elevate the expectation and the level of everyone around them. Whereas if you're dogging, if you're loafing, if you're in there bad mouthing in the locker room and all that stuff, you stood out like a sore thumb, man. Because it gets to where peer pressure is a positive thing. That's what I wanted. I wanted guys that made the peer pressure in there. I love peer pressure as long as it's positive. And that's what we have right now by Roshan and, all those guys that came through. They raised the level of everybody around them because they gave it. They brought it every single day.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Chef. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chef.
Culture is one of those things that I've learned over the years. I used to think it was something that you can acquire and, it's just like this thing that, kind of you have it and it just kind of sustains itself. No, it's you constantly have to be working on culture. It's a habitual thing and you got to cultivate it every single day. Say what you want about him, but I remember Chris Beard going into his second year at Texas. The term he uses, okay, we've established the culture. Now it's about defending the culture every day. That's what our guys have to come in this building with. And I think you've got a lot of guys, Coach, like you just talked about. You've got a lot of guys that understand now, hey, the culture's been established. Now we've got to defend it every day and grow it. And it starts with, hey, if somebody leaves a Gatorade bottle in a meeting room saying, hey, we don't do that here.
Right.
Hey, go take a cup and put it in the trash. It's just there's a certain way you're going to behave. There's a certain way you're going to conduct yourself. There's a certain way you're going to work. And if you're not doing it, sorry, the other coaches, that's at the point they don't have to say anything because there's going to be somebody, one of those leaders on the team that's going to say something to let them know that's not our standard. That's not the way we do things here.
Well, there's a saying that I heard a long time ago that I've used 1,000,000 times with coaches during our staff clinic and hiring coaches stuff. And that culture is like a garden. It's got to be weeded and tended to every single day. Every single day. It's got to be weeded. You weed out anything that could be coming up to make your crop result, which is in football, it's results. In the garden, it's the crop. You got to weed it and tend to it every single day. You can't just walk away from it for a while and not do the hard stuff and expect that culture or that garden to produce good fruit.
It's good stuff, Coach. Appreciate that. How about this one? Question from Eli. He says, Rod B. Lee Jackson said Major is his favorite player or best player in college football in his time or on the Texas staff. I'm not sure how GH worded. What do you have to say about that? I didn't hear the interview that they had with Lee J. I got to go back and check that out. Thank you for that, Eli. What I will say is that, man, Major was clutch. No, Major was clutch. Major had the clutch gene. I was just talking to Case McCoy not too long ago. I think Case had the clutch gene. Having the clutch gene doesn't always necessarily mean you got, all the other assets and all the other traits to be an elite QB or anything like that. But Major was gritty. He had the clutch gene, and he had scones the size of smart cars. Testicular fortitude. You talk about a guy that if he didn't like the call that came in, change the call. Deal with the consequences later. If it don't work out, coach called me out. But if it works out, coach better leave me alone. Like, that's Major in a nutshell. And even when Major became a coach, there's all these great stories about Major and as a coach and his coaching mentality being very similar to him as a player. I think I was talking to Jeremy Hills and Case about this. And Case had a year with Major Applewhite as the play caller and stuff like that. And he was talking about how, Major would always have like a joke, like in the middle of a tense situation, that Major would come in there and kind of crack jokes. And Major had this bit, and I think that's part of being clutch. You relax when everybody else tenses up. And pressure does. Pressure makes you tense up. It's natural for all humans and all, not just sports, everything. Presentations, public speaking, most human beings, they get really tense when there's a lot of pressure. Just natural. Don't be mad at yourself. But there are a few of them out there, they got the clutch gene. Mm-hmm. And when the pressure's on, they don't tense up. They stay relaxed. BY had it. He's cracking jokes in clutch time. Some guys got it like that. And I would say Major, he did have some of the clutch gene, and guys responded to that. But, in terms of, I would say this about Major. I don't know if Major was always the best teammate, but Major was clutch. And if y'all know the stories, then y'all know what I'm talking about. If you don't know the stories, then I'm not going to get into it on here, because we're not trashing Longhorn family like that.
We got into it last year, remember?
Yeah, right? Exactly. Right? Like, so I don't know if Major was a great teammate all the time, but he's a great Longhorn. And a good friend of mine, too, by the way. I love me some Major Applewhite.
I'm going to tell you, Major was a GA. Major was a GA when Jordan was being recruited. And I really think a conversation he had with Jordan really turned Jordan, because Jordan was Texas. And then Wes Welker and all these guys started calling him. How much balls you going to catch at Tech and all this stuff. And so he was on the verge of flipping, to tell you the truth. And then Major said, look, man, if you want to go catch 100 balls a year from your freshman year on, and you want to be the guy in Lubbock, Texas, that's probably where you need to go. But if you want to play in the NFL and you want to go against the best DBs in the country every single day to sharpen your skills and hone your skills, then Texas is where you need to be. And Jordan goes, wow, that's right. And Jordan stayed with Texas, and I'm thankful that he did, because of Major's wisdom, to know. That's what made him. I mean, he same thing. He's throwing against you guys every day, Rod, in practice. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, he wasn't going to see anything tougher on Saturday than he saw all week long.
Yep. No, I totally agree. And it was a smart move by him, too, by the way. Because he ended up going up against some of the greatest DBs in the history of DBU in practice every damn day, which I think made him the best wide receiver in Texas. There was another great story that Case was telling about Jackson, actually, Coach. And he said, I forget what game it was, but basically it was a clutch situation, and Texas was driving, and they needed a first down. And then Case came back to the sideline, and Major was the OC. And then Case was like, Coach, I think I'm going to throw it to Jackson. And then Major said, no shit, you're throwing it to Jackson. Everybody in this damn stadium knows you're throwing it to Jackson. We just got to find a way to give him the ball.
that year, Jackson led the country in third down completions third down catches. He led the country. He may not catch a ball all game. Every ball he catch may be third down. You know, he wasn't going to probably outrun anybody or everybody. He was going to dang sure catch it, man.
No, it was so. I apologize for my language there, but it was just great the way he says. He's like, yeah, of course, everybody in the damn stadium knows that we're throwing it to Jackson. We just got to figure out the best way to give the football. And he threw it to him. He said he was basically triple teamed on him. He still threw it to Jackson, and I believe he caught it. I believe the story is that he ended up catching it, so that he was clutch is clutch. Anyway,
I can think back to several games that year. If I'm remembering right, that might have been the West Virginia game in Morgantown.
I think you might be right about that. I gotta go. I can't remember the exact game. I apologize for that, but it was. Yeah, I remember him telling the story.
At the end of the game, Jackson caught a little post corner route or some kind of corner route in the end zone where he laid out and caught it. And a friend of mine. Coach Patterson, who was a defensive coordinator at West Virginia at the time, was later the defensive coordinator at Texas Tech. Now he's a head coach here in Abilene at Abilene Christian. He tells me that story all the time. They said, hey, we knew who they were throwing it to. Well, I told them who they were throwing it to. He says the most frustrating thing.
Still couldn't count it. I will say, no, it was a great story. He's like, he was triple team, still got it to him. That's that McCoy Shipley connection, man. You can't stop it. All right, let's get to this question from Ryan. Good question here from Ryan, who says, Rod B, Coach, and Jeff, what are your expectations for Jelani McDonald this year? He has superstar potential, in my opinion. I saw Jahdae Barron say that as well, basically like something that he's got some God's gifts. He's got some unique talents that only God can give. Something along those lines Jahdae Barron said about Jelani McDonald. Jeff, I'll throw this one to you because I know you're a big Jelani McDonald fan. I know you're a big fan of that big nickel package they threw out there. Are we underselling what Jelani McDonald's potential and impact could be on the secondary next season?
I don't think I've undersold it, Rod.
Not you.
Yeah, no, I don't think we've undersold it. When you've got guys like him that are kind of the bigger athletes, I think there's a tendency to try to pigeonhole those guys and say, all right, we want him to be this. With him, I like that the staff has let it happen organically. Like, hey, let's start him at safety, and we'll kind of see where his body takes him if you need to move him. Now he's able to play some nickel. He's able to play some safety. I still say, hey, if you're going to run some 3 high, that middle field safety role in a 3 high, if you're copying that John Haycock model, that's tailor made for a guy like Jelani McDonald. So I just think at this point, and I think about how much better that safety room is going to be whenever you get Derek Williams back full strength. On top of the fact that, Phil Sami and some of those younger, Jonah Williams is a guy that we won't see or hear about probably this spring because he's with the baseball team. So you got some really talented cats in that safety room. No, I think Jelani McDonald, I think he's at the point where you can expect him to be like, hey, can you be in that all SEC mix by the end of the year? Not saying he's got to be a first team All-American, but if you can be one of the better, half dozen safeties in the SEC, then you're probably getting somewhere. That's where I would put the expectations.
Yeah. The Jahdae Barron quote was, he is going to be special. That's God-gifted talent that he said about Jelani McDonald, because he's got some freakish stuff that you just can't coach and you can't teach. But I like what you said about the 3 high safety looks. I think they should use more, and they used it more this year than they have ever used 3 high safety looks, usually putting that nickel back as that third safety. And I think they should use it more. And I saw a lot of it in the Ohio State game too. I actually ran a lot of 3 high principles. All right. Thank you for that question, Ryan. Appreciate it. CB has a question here. Who runs faster, Blue or Bond? Who runs faster, Blue or Bond? Oh man, I'm going to go. That's a good one. That is good. I feel like Bond's going to run faster, but I could be off about that. What are you guys' thoughts? I'll pick Bond on that one, but that could go either way. Coach, what are your thoughts? Who's faster in your opinion? Now,
I'd like to see that. I would like to see that race. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure Blue wouldn't. I don't know. It's going to be close.
Yeah.
I wonder how healthy Isaiah Bond is. If he's for sure over that ankle. If that ankle is good, then I think I think you're splitting hairs on trying to figure out which one is faster. But man, if he's not healthy, I could definitely see Jaydon Blue running a faster time than Bond. But if that ankle's right, if it's ready to go, I would take Isaiah Bond.
How much time has he had off since the injury?
We're talking about
6 weeks or something. Not
6 weeks or so. Yeah,
6 weeks or so. But he's got to train though. So yeah, if it ain't healed up, it hurts your training for that.
Yeah.
It's not like the rest. Ain't you just rest up. Now he could be just as freakishly fast like Bo Jackson or Deion Sanders, where I didn't need to train for it. I'm just that fast. There are human beings like that, I assure you. But I don't know if he's one of those human beings. So you got to train for it. Remember Xavier Worthy saying he knew he was going to come close because he was coming close in workouts. Like he was, and his coach was probably telling them, no, I want you to slow down. I don't want you to peak too early. So, I mean, you'll know if you can come close to it. And so, yeah, maybe you guys have changed my opinion. Maybe it is Blue because of the injury to Bond. I didn't think about the injury. I'm just going off, overall freakish speed. It could be Blue because of the injury. I didn't take that into account.
The fact that Sark in that, if you go back to Kay Adams interview, when Sark put both those guys in the same category in terms of he thinks both those guys are going to run elite times, which there's this growing buzz. I'm not saying Jaydon Blue's going to challenge that Xavier Worthy record or that he'll run on the 4.2s, but there's enough Jaydon Blue buzz that if he's the fastest running back at the combine, it wouldn't surprise me if he's in the low.
If he's
40s.
not, that's disappointing, I think. Right? Who's the running back supposed to be faster than Jaydon Blue?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't think there are any like speed deep. Now there's some really good running back. I mean, this is one of the deepest running back classes in a long time. But it's nobody who's known as being a speed demon. Like it's not like Jahmyr Gibbs in this class. Like he's supposed to be that guy. So Jeff, I think you hit the nail on the head. If he's not the fastest running back, I think that would be. I don't know if it'll drop his draft stock because I don't actually know where his draft stock is. But you're right. There's a lot of buzz, and I don't know if the buzz will continue if he's not at least the fastest back. But I think he's got a chance to be. Yeah, see, all the expectations are he's going to be the fastest running back among this group. That's the expectation. But we'll see how it goes. But I've heard Field Yates. I've heard we talked about yesterday Jordan Reed, the draft analyst for ESPN. He's expecting a freaky workout from Jaydon Blue. So if Jaydon Blue is a freaky workout, guys, he's going to end up getting drafted. I'm not saying where he's going to get drafted, but he'll end up getting, I think, drafted to the team that believes they can weaponize his elite trait, which is his speed. And Jaydon Blue's got good film because he showed up in big games.
The good film for him is really good.
Yeah, agreed. The good film's really. Now I know the fumbleitis. That's a problem. The fumbleitis is a problem. But that's like he's got one elite trait and he's got one Shakespearean flaw. So how do you want to measure that? He's got a tragic flaw, which is ball security, but he's got an elite trait, which is potentially world-class speed.
Yeah,
so
with him, I think he could have the kind of workout where a team could be drafting him in the middle rounds and think, man, did we just draft our version of Jahmyr Gibbs in the third round? Jahmyr Gibbs was a first-round pick. Was it top 12? I think he was 12.
Yeah, first round.
Mm-hmm. There could be a team out there that said, hey, we just drafted our version of Jahmyr Gibbs. We just drafted him in the 90s instead of using the top 12 pick.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, we'll talk about Andrew Mukuba here in a second because CJ Vogel had some great audio and video from Andrew Mukuba at the Combine. But first, let's thank our friends over at South Point Dodge before we get close to the end of the winning drive in our live stream here today. Get to the point, score an easy extra point this season with our friends over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, folks, including an amazing selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and even 3500s, whatever your truck needs. South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. And actually, right now is a great time for you to head on over to South Point Dodge, and you can get a great deal on over 50 Ram 2500s, all marked down with huge savings over at South Point Dodge. So head on over to South Point Dodge. You can see their inventory in person off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can go to southpointdodge.com and make it easy on yourself and see their inventory, that fantastic inventory online there. Everything and anything that your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. That is Austin's automotive everything, southpointdodge.com. All right. Real quick, Matthew, can you pull up the Andrew Mukuba? There are a couple of nice tidbits that CJ Vogel had about Andrew Mukuba. One of them was when he was asked about what kind of, I believe, what kind of safety the NFL is going to get with Andrew Mukuba, and he was also asked about what receiver he'd like to go up against in practice. CJ, if you can pull up a couple of those, Matthew, I'd really appreciate it. In the meantime, we can answer one of these questions. NTX Horn says first. Oh, here, see, Matthew's already faster than I thought. All right, we'll get to the question in just a second. But first, listen to Andrew Mukuba here at the podium at the combine.
This week.
I'm hoping to prove that to myself, really, but also, prove to everybody that, I'm the best safety in this draft, for sure. And I know guys come up here, and say that, but, I actually believe that and mean it.
Prove that.
Yeah, I will say this: he believes he's the best safety in the draft. He's supposed to believe that, and I think he's actually one of the most. Oh, here's another clip from him talking about Matthew Golden. Let's just play that one, then we'll come back and discuss Andrew Mukuba. But here is the clip of him talking about who he likes to go up, who he liked going up against in practice. Texas.
I had to say Matt Golden. Matt Golden is the guy that came in, put his head down, worked. And obviously, he's seen the work paying off. But, in practice, man, he practiced like a pro. His approach to practice was amazing. With us, we had a lot of good players on offense and defense. So, we used to always go at it every day. I feel like that's what kind of made us better in the long run and how the secondary played and how the receivers played this year.
All right, there's Andrew Mukuba. Andrew Mukuba is going to be one of those guys that kind of drops in, kind of the meat of this draft, in the middle rounds of this draft. But I think Andrew Mukuba has what it takes to be an NFL vet. I do think I think his football intelligence is through the roof. He's physical, a lot more physical than his, stature would present, right? He's a physical player, and he can cover, and he's got great range for a safety. I'm not sure where he's going. I think a lot of people may have him, maybe the fourth, fifth rounds around there, and safety is not a valued premium position. I do think Andrew Mukuba is a guy that can play on Sundays. There's no doubt about that. I actually think he's got what it takes to be, a second contract guy in the league, if you will.
Yeah. Reminds me a little bit of PJ Locke, just in terms of the versatility. Because he played corner at Clemson, he played nickel at Clemson, was exclusively safety at Texas, so he can play multiple positions. And he's a guy that, as tough and as physical as he is, I mean, his striking ability, he'll as a rookie, he'll be on some special teams. He'll cover kicks. Yeah. So yeah, he can be one of your core special teams guys. I'm with you though, Rod. I just feel like his makeup is going to allow him to stick in the league for, that get him a nice, 5, 7, 8 years, somewhere like that.
I agree with that. Coach, what are your thoughts about Andrew Mukuba overall? Considering what he did here at Texas was unbelievable. I think he was overshadowed just because you had a Thorpe Award winner. You had Michael Tabb, who had a All-American caliber year. Just had so many standout performances in that secondary. But they're not the best secondary in the country, arguably, if not for the addition of Mukuba.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I love his confidence. Rod, you can't play DB if you're not confident.
That's real.
You got the best dude on the field. Somebody takes him in the mid rounds, they're going to get a steal. He may drop. He may go middle round, but I think he's going to be a steal for somebody. Just what Jeff was saying, he's so versatile. He can a little bit like Jahdae. He doesn't have maybe the stats that Barron had, but he's got the versatility to really help out a team. And I think somebody's going to get a bargain if he goes mid-round.
All right, a couple of rapid fires before we end it here. NTX Horn wants to know, first Longhorn taken. Most of the mock drafts have Kelvin Banks being the first Longhorn taken off the board. But Jahdae Barron is, and if he runs a fast time, I could see Kelvin Banks drop down a little bit. People are concerned about his arm length and stuff like that. And I could see Jahdae Barron move up a little bit. I just still think it'll be Kelvin Banks, in my opinion, in TX Horn.
Yeah.
Appreciate the question. All right. Thank you guys for all the questions. Sorry we couldn't get to all of them. If we missed any of your questions, please direct them to the guys over at Coffee and Football tomorrow, 8 a.m. I want to thank Coach for all of his wisdom and knowledge. Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate all of your expertise as well. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. He's the real MVP. Thank you also to our sponsors. Thank you to Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. And thank you to South Point Dodge at southpointdodge.com. Remember, tomorrow you got Coffee and Football at 8 a.m. And then you'll have our live stream tomorrow. That'll be at 1 p.m., the Friday live stream. So thank you to all you guys out there for watching and for listening. Thank you for all your participation. And thank you for all the questions as well. And for Coach and for Matthew and for Jeff, until next time, hook 'em horns.